Hi, welcome again to another episode of the Leadership Studio. My name is Todd Kargas. I love this because I get to talk to leaders from all over the place about topics that are important to us and to you. And today I am here with my friend and colleague, Tara Robertson, to discuss the topic that's not professional. And I kind of love the way that we're putting it on the screen too. This is going to be fun, Tara, but before we get started, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because you'll do it better than I will.
Okay. My name's Tara Robertson. I'm here in Vancouver, which is on the unceded traditional territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh First Nations. I'm a leadership coach who primarily serves women of color in corporate environments. And I also am an inclusion consultant.
That's excellent. An inclusion consultant. Maybe that'll... that's not our topic. But I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I've already gone off script.
That's not professional, Todd.
I know. Nor is my laugh. I've been told that. Not professional. Let's talk about this, though. That's not professional. When you and I were imagining, what was the topic that was important for us to discuss, this came up, and it came up really loud and really clear. And I think that the way to get started is for us to either talk about why this was important or to talk about what we even mean when we say professional, because I bet it means a bunch of different things to a bunch of different people. And I bet specifically within our own professional contexts and the people that we've worked with, I bet it means different things to our clients as well. So,
what does it mean for you right now?
Oh, that's so interesting. Look at you turning it around. So what does it mean for me? I think it means a lot of different things. And what I've discovered for myself anyway is that the narrow definitions that I've usually sort of given to the word professional around sort of the corporate jobs that I've had, right? Whether I was working in a bank or whether working in technology or whatever. Like the bank's a good example, right? Professional meant wearing the suit and putting on the tie and having the shoes and looking the look, right? And it was sort of a costume. It was something that I could wear, a performance. And I think what I'm discovering as I go into this, and I kind of become more comfortable in my own skin without the suit, is that professional is something that comes as much from confidence as it does from anything else. And also, I'm going to keep going. And also, care. Like I am at my most professional when I care about the person that I'm talking to, when I care about what's going on, right? When I care about your success and what's going on for you, and so that's what immediately pops up for me, which is so I'm experiencing a broadening of the definition. But what about you?
Well, I was thinking about that. I've had a couple of different careers. Before I became a coach, I worked in tech, leading global diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there was a certain standard of what is professional. What does a professional look like, dress like? How do they talk? How do they use email or Slack? Do you use emojis or not? Which was very different from where I spent 12 years. I worked as an academic librarian in universities and colleges. So I had a different set of clothes even. Professional meant buying kind of business dresses at the Bay. And as I progressed in my career, I started wearing them with high tops and leggings underneath. As a woman of color, my background is I'm half Japanese and white. I am read younger by most white people. So I was 10 years into my career and a white woman asked me, "Oh, are you going to be involved in this early career thing?" And I'm like, "I'm not early career. All the things I've done, how could you even think that?" And I've had colorful hair since I was a teenager, and it's kind of who I am and how I show up in the world. And for some people, that's not professional. And so I don't know. It's contextual. The industry, who I am, the age I am, and how much agency and how much sovereignty I feel over my life and my work.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, because I think contextual is really important. Before we started filming this, one of the things that I was talking about was sort of noticing, as I was thinking about this conversation, about the times when, I was able to leverage my privilege as a cis white person in business to sort of push the boundaries of professionalism, particularly around the kind of language that I was allowed to use, right? Like I could be, the older folks would say I could be blue. Um,
So you,
the things that I could say fuck, and it would be okay. Or it wouldn't be okay, it would be shocking. I could do it for effect,
yeah.
and not have to worry about what it meant, like what the consequences were for me. Whereas other people that I'd worked with, people who didn't have access to the same kind of power and privilege that I had, wouldn't be able to make that kind of calculation.
Yeah.
And that's also sort of within the context of professionalism, because it's not just what's professional and what isn't, it's also how rigid are the rules, isn't it?
And who made the rules, and how they applied to different people. So I recently did a fireside chat with the business community, and I was talking to the snotty nose res kids, which are two amazing men who are hip hop artists and Indigenous in Canada. They've won a bunch of awards. Also, they're just lovely, lovely men. And the conversation was really, really good. Like, they shared stuff and dropped a bunch of gems and observations that I don't think this audience had heard before. And the conversation was alive. Our connection was great. The connection with the audience is great. And towards the end, one of them swore. I can't remember what he said. Something like, that's not my shit to deal with. And I didn't want to leave him hanging on stage. So I just repeated it. I said, that's not what I'm hearing, is that's not your shit to deal with. And we're at time, so we're going to wrap it up. And it was so excellent. It was a really vulnerable, heartfelt, authentic conversation. And feedback that I heard from a couple of really beloved colleagues was, I heard you were great, but you swore on stage. And I was like, wow, okay. But in that audience, in that context, that was pretty shocking. But what disappointed me is that the conversation was so rich and there was so much in it, but it kind of got swept away because I said shit. Like,
well, because and then there's the thing, right? So those moments of quote unquote unprofessionalism, whatever it is, whether it's, I've got the wrong color hair or the wrong kind of hair, or I've said the wrong thing, or I'm not wearing the right outfit or whatever, like all of that stuff that really has nothing at all to do with my ability to do a job, can get in the way. And it's almost sort of like there's a it's that the performance of professionalism again, right? Like, if it's something that I wear and I wear it correctly, then it's sort of whoever it is that made up the rules, right, can then see me as, a whole and complete person or a professional or whatever that is, and I'm then allowed to be within the context of whatever, right? I mean, we all have experiences of being othered in some way or in some position for, one or another, but there's that thing, like it's almost like a tool for fitting in, but it isn't at all a tool for belonging.
Well, it's about power, right? So who makes the rule? How are they applied to whom? What does that look like? And what is the cost? Like, when you mentioned hair, I was like, oh yeah, here I am talking about having colorful hair. But this is a choice I've made. The Crown Act in the US saying you can't discriminate against Black people because of their hair, or you can't discriminate against people because of their hair. Like, I still have heard from clients who are Black and have Black hair, and like about how their hair has been mentioned in performance reviews as, performance-wise, you've crushed it, but like this part here could be a little more professional. It's like, you mean white? Like, so
and
it gets coated with power.
Right. And I think, and thank you for naming that particular elephant in the room, because I think that there's also sort of the relationship between professionalism and whiteness, particularly in North American business, European business too, I imagine, but I don't have any experience with that. And that's uncomfortable for. You know what? I'm going to take a step back. That's uncomfortable for white people to acknowledge. I don't think it's uncomfortable for people who for people of color to acknowledge, because I think it's something they just live with all the time.
It's shitty and unfair. And it's unjust.
Of course it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I don't think it's uncomfortable though.
Yeah, it's shitty and unfair and unjust, but uncomfortable. Like, it took me a long time to kind of realize, professionalism is also coded whiteness. Like, it,
So that discomfort right now, where is that in your body?
Well, actually, that discomfort doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
It's because I think I've made peace with the connection between professionalism and whiteness, at least within the context of business. And to be honest, I think it's one of the reasons. No, it's not one of the reasons why professionalism didn't work for me, because I'm no one thinks I'm anything other than white. Like, I can't pass for not white.
So we gave the example of swearing and how you've been able to swear, and I get policed sometimes when I swear. I'm curious, where do you feel like you bump up against what professional standards are, or where have you been told, Todd, that's not really professional?
See, that's a good question. I think it's been a little bit more subtle. Like, no one's ever looked at the way that I, with one exception, when I was younger, and I was maybe a little bit more strident in the way that I presented queer, and I would wear big earrings or whatever. I did have a recruiter once look at me and say, "So you're not going to wear those big earrings when you go to the interview, right?" And it was like, it was a little tech startup, and I was supposed to be a project manager. Like, it would have been fine. But the way that I looked would present something to the recruiter, like it was something about them rather than about me. But I think where I've bumped up against professionalism has been in the places where my values misaligned with an organization. Like, a good example, I think, is I was at an organization that had a bunch of leadership challenges, and frankly, like, if I was the person that I am now at the time, I maybe would have tried to solve some of those challenges a little differently than I did then. But at the time, all I knew how to do was sort of to say, hey, there's this thing, and this doesn't correspond with the values that we say we're supposed to be living as an organization. So all I knew how to do was shine a spotlight on it, and that was called unprofessional. And it was called counterculture.
For pointing out the misalignment.
Because I wasn't allowed, exactly
what people were doing.
It was like, for one of the things, not the only thing, but one of the things, for example, is it was an organization that prided itself on its diversity and would point to a highly diverse workforce as sort of evidence of the commitment to diversity. But if you go up into the executive sort of channel, like, it's everyone's white. And there's lots and lots of organizations that are like that. But they really didn't like hearing that, for example. And at the time I was thinking, well, like, if it's obvious to me, it's for sure obvious. It's for sure obvious to the other people in the workforce. And I don't think they're going to tell you, but maybe it's safer for me to do it. So let's shine a spotlight on that and see what we're going to do.
It makes me think of, I have a lot of clients who are neurodivergent, and a few autistic clients have bumped up against something similar where they can clearly see the mismatch about what people are saying and what they're doing. And for their values, they need to point it out. And I've seen in different ways that people are punished for that.
So that's mostly where it's been for me. And frankly, if I go back in time and I look at it, almost every organization has a significant values misalignment at some point. Usually it's in the 4 to 5 year range. And that's when, that's when someone pulls out unprofessional, puts it in front of me in a performance evaluation and says, here's the thing. Yeah. How about you? How does it show? I mean, you've shared a little bit already, right, about the hair and some of the other things, but.
Ooh. It's something I bumped up a lot in my career. I got it a lot more in libraries than I did in tech. I view librarianship as a culture. The culture is nice white ladies. And I joke, I'm not nice, I'm not white, and I'm not a lady. So a lot of it was more subtle, like saying, oh, I'm not sure that's the right tone, or yeah, that's a little too colorful, your slides, or sharing personal things there. I'm not sure, that feels really risky. So yeah, it was coached a lot in like risk management, or I'm not sure that's a great idea. When I was in libraries, I came out as a former sex worker and used my story as a platform to talk about the ethical issues in libraries around digitizing a specific lesbian porn magazine that had it was called Honor Backs. It had a short print run. It wasn't meant for the whole wide world. And libraries were digitizing that and putting it online. And the models, some of whom I knew, did not give consent for that. So I strategically used my story as a way to kind of get people to sit up in their seats and take notice, and changed how libraries, changed ethics in libraries around digitization. Like, not everything is meant to be digitized. But that felt like a tremendous risk. It was.
Okay, so this might be a bit of a pivot, but I'm hearing a theme starting to emerge, and I'm curious if you are too. And the theme that I'm starting to hear is within the context of leadership, is leaders who have or who understand the rules of professionalism, whatever they happen to be, within the context that they're in, have an opportunity to use those to their advantage and to break the rules strategically. And
I'm thinking about, can I interject here?
Yes, please.
I'm thinking about how power and privilege play in. So I waited until, like, I was really safe in my career, and I had I had a pretty excellent track record on what I did professionally. Like, this wasn't something I did in my first year.
Of course.
I had a lot of social capital. I had the support of my union, and I had the support of my boss. So part of my leadership was like, let me tee up things to make sure I have the structural support, because I'm going to do something that puts me out there and puts me at risk. So I think when you can see what the rules are and you have safety, power, and privilege, you can also start to kind of nudge out for yourself and for other people. Like, for the example, when someone said, that's not so professional, and I was like, what do you mean by that? Like, what are you really saying? And because of the relationships I had with people, we could get into a deeper conversation.
Well,
so that was a leadership moment, but
well, and it's exactly, and it's a really important question, because that's not so professional. What do you mean by that? Like, the immediate thing that popped into my head was, that meant they weren't comfortable. That meant that you activated their discomfort. And it's unprofessional because you're not allowed within that context to activate their discomfort in that way. And that's an interesting way to look at professionalism too.
Like your earrings were making the recruiter uncomfortable. And you were like, the earrings are going to be fine as a project manager in tech. They actually could be a point of like connection. People are like, those are really cool big earrings. Where'd you get them?
Yeah. And I think, and again, access to power and access to privilege allowed me to do that. I think that if I was showing up in a different body with a different history, my only option would have been to take the earrings out. So yeah, I think there's something there. But what I'm loving about the way this conversation is unfolding, Tara, is that I'm hearing that there's agency, and that leaders can sort of look at professionalism as a tool rather than a restriction. Because, regardless of, and I'm going to say something that might be provocative, and I am open to being corrected, so you let me know, right? Because, white guy here, and maybe I'm getting it wrong. But it seems to me that regardless of how much access you have to power and privilege, if you can sort of understand what those limitations are, whether they're fair or not, and then understand, like you said, right, building the safety, creating the situation where you can push against those boundaries for a purpose, and sometimes that purpose is for someone else, like in the example that you shared. Right? There were these other people that you knew, who didn't give consent to having their work digitized and distributed widely. But they didn't have the access. They didn't have the voice in that moment, and you did.
And I had the credential as a professional librarian, and
right.
was sort of inside that industry and inside an institution where my voice as an expert could land in a different way.
Right.
I was thinking when you were talking about gender dress codes and just how
I don't know if you've seen my LinkedIn post with me in a skirt. No. Yeah, I love it. I try not to wear pants to formal events if I can avoid it these days. And sorry, this is not.
And how that could be applied differently to trans or non-binary folks than to me as a woman.
Yes.
Like, I might not love the uniform skirt that I have to wear, but like, it's not gonna hurt me, or and the correction and how I'm read in that situation, there's different stuff going on. So
yeah, and yes, oh my goodness, yes. And access to power, access to privilege, what is professional, and and yeah, you're absolutely right. Like, gender coded clothing can be harmful. So the rules of professionalism can actively harm someone.
And the other thing I'm thinking about is age. Like, I'm 48 now. I've had a couple of careers behind me. People who hire me generally know what they're getting, and they come to me because I am who I am. Younger people in the workforce don't necessarily have that privilege. And just hearing about, that's not professional, about how younger people are communicating in the workplace, or how they're showing up, or what they're wearing. Yeah. I think some of it, I think we want people to succeed. And sometimes I've seen some behavior, I was like, you can't do that at work. But I'm like, why is that?
Yeah.
There's those things, how can we be explicit about them so that we can kind of all see what the rules are, and then we can disagree with them. But when there's a lot of unwritten rules, and we're all navigating them differently because of the unique intersection of our power and privilege, it gets a little muddier. So then, is it actually a performance issue? Is it a quality issue with someone's work? Or you don't like how they're wearing the uniform?
Right. Well, and it's so interesting because, when we started this conversation, we imagined this conversation, Tara, I imagined that it would be really easy, right? I imagined, the way that I show up, what I wear, how my hair looks, even sort of the kind of slang or language that I use doesn't have anything to do really with my abilities. And that's true, but there's so much more to it, because the thing is the judgment that exists will exist regardless of whether that's true or not, which means that whatever those rules are, it's better for me to be aware of them so that if I'm breaking them with intention.
Ooh,
whatever that
okay.
intention is, you know?
I'm hearing something juicy. So if you're watching this, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the recording, I want to offer you like a little playful field work. So
Ooh, I love this.
Think about a workplace setting. Could be where you work now or somewhere else, and write down 3 of the unwritten rules. Like, what are the unwritten rules in the space that you're working in? And for bonus points, ask a colleague to do the same and compare your lists.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. Because what immediately, and I'm not going to tell you what the unwritten rules are because I can come up with a whole list of them, but what immediately pops up for me is just knowing with absolute certainty that the things that I would have put on my list are different than the things that some of my colleagues would have put on their lists.
So before you became a coach, think about the workplace that you were in. Can you give me one unwritten rule of that workplace?
Oh, well, of that particular workplace, I think the unwritten rule was measure your criticism very carefully. Measure your criticism very carefully, and don't make people uncomfortable as a result of it. And frankly, Tara, I mean, I'm a bit of a bull in a china shop, so that's not something that I'm good at. Which is maybe just as well, because I think if it hadn't been for breaking that rule, we wouldn't be having this conversation. I wouldn't have gone in the direction that I did. How about you, though? What's like in one of your most like pre-coaching workplaces? What's an example of a rule? And
I noticed a big shift between academic institutions and tech around formal language. So in academia, like the language is more formal. According to so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. So, and tech, like brevity. Yeah. Give me the TLDR. I don't want the whole blah, 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 blah. Like I need the headline and people will be bright, be gone.
Yeah.
So very, very different way of communicating.
Yeah, I agree. I'm looking at the time and we don't have an awful lot of time left. I love the takeaway. Is there anything else that you want to offer my last words?
No, I'm curious though, like if you do try the field work, reach out to us either on LinkedIn or through our websites and let us know what the unwritten rules are that you're observing and what that means for how you want to choose to move through your workplace.
I love that because it's a choice and it doesn't always feel like a choice, but it can be. Yeah. And there's ways to create that. Oh, Tara.
This was a delight. Thank you for inviting me here.
I love spending time with you. Thank you for joining me. Listen, if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way for them to do that?
I ship post on LinkedIn daily. So follow me on LinkedIn, Tara Robertson.
Okay. Sounds good. And we'll put a link to that in the, well, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, then you can see it. It's already there. If you're watching this on YouTube, then I'll put a link to Tara's LinkedIn in the show notes so that you can reach her there. And I'm Todd Cargis. You can reach me here or at toddcargis.com. And and Shona's here, and she says thank you. And thank you, Shona. That's fantastic. Really appreciate you.
Okay, have a great day, Todd. Have a great day, everyone.
Indeed. Thank you very much. And I'm going to end the recording. Okay. Talk to you again.